think let's start. It's already 6:12.
Hello everyone, welcome to Hindu Center of Atlanta's weekly spiritual learning. Today we are joined with Acharya Brahmadevji. Brahmadev Acharya is delivering a lecture on series Eeshopanishad. Acharya Brahmadevji has an inclusive educational background in science, banking, management, and Darshanacharya Vedic Philosophy, Darshan Yog Mahavidyalaya, Gujarat, India, and a diverse career in financial services industry at Eeshopanishad Mauritius. He has been a key resource person for Eeshopanishad Mauritius on the universal Vedic values, yoga and meditation, and on interfaith and intercultural dialogue at various national and international forums. The Mauritius Council of Religions, Arya Pratinisthis of America, Greater Atlanta Vedic Temple, and Hindu Center of Atlanta Yoga and Meditation Center in Cumming. He is author of numerous insightful articles on Vedic philosophy and contemporary issues in English and French. Acharya
Ji, namaste everybody. Welcome to this series on the Eeshopanishad. Let's sit down straight, bring our focus, close the eyes gently with the body totally relaxed, and pledge to yourself that when closing the eyes, it's also closing the mind to external thoughts and the heart to external emotions. Focus on the inhale and exhale process with the air moving out and in the nostrils. 3 times Om Jap and 1 time Gayatri Mantra chanting. The Om Jap will be with a long exhale. Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Join the palms together, gently rub them, cover the eyes, and slowly, gently open the eyes below the palms and transfer the energy to the facial muscles. Remove the tension, the stress points. So we've been looking into the Eeshopanishad, and the Eeshopanishad is the last part of the Yajurveda, the 40th chapter, and also is the basis or the foundations of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. The Upanishads are known as Vedanta because it's the gist of the knowledge of the Vedas. And like this one is taking the last part of the Yajurveda. So it's taking the end path and Vedant, Vedant. It's not the Vedanta which we've been listening to worldwide in the present day context. It's the Vedant in the true sense that this one, Eeshopanishad, refers to the last chapter of the Yajurveda, and how to align it with the Bhagavad Gita. We should understand one thing. The gist of this chapter of the Yajurveda talks about Gyan, Karma, Upasana. Dhyan, knowledge, Karma, action, and Upasana, bhakti, devotion, dedication to the objectives of that. Likewise, if you take the example of the Bhagavad Gita, this was taught in the midst of the battlefield when both the armies, the Pandavas on one side and the Kauravas on the other side, and the chariot was placed in between the two armies, and this is where Sri Krishna ji delivered the message of the Bhagavad Gita. And what was the message of the Bhagavad Gita is imparting knowledge to Arjuna. Arjuna was a very learned person. But then at that particular point of time, the veil of ignorance prevailed. Moh, Maya, etc. And these are the veils of ignorance. His logic ceased to function. He could only see in the opposite army his cousins, his gurus, his relatives, his near and dear ones, which is true. But beyond that, these were the people who were creating miseries for the Pandavas and for the people in this kingdom. And it needed a higher level of knowledge to use that logic and to go into actions. This is dhyan. And using that knowledge, Arjunji went into action, and he geared into action, that is karma, irrespective of what would be the outcome of that action, without awaiting or expecting the fruits of the action. That is selfless service. And then he was dedicated to fight the Kauravas for the reestablishment of Dharma. That was the bhakti part of it. And if we look at the Eeshopanishad, the first teaching is about the concept of God. Ishavasyamidam sarvam yat kincha. Ishwar being omnipresent, present everywhere and at all times. And the mantra ends with Ma gridha kasya svidhanam. Don't covet things that don't belong to us. That is, don't crave for what belongs to others. And this is what Duryodhana did. He trespassed Dharma, and when he said not a needle point to be given to the Pandavas, that was, he imposed his own thoughts, and the proper word is stealing, stay. And he didn't give a single, even the equivalent of the needle point of land for the Pandavas to live. Whereas the logic was, if there was equanimity or some level of consideration, it should have been a fair distribution. But if you go on distributing and distributing, this is where things go, and we just, जैसे कहते हैं ना, बिखर जाते हैं. We just go spread into small entities, and then somebody from outside just come and invade the whole thing. So that is also dhyan. So instead of dividing and subdividing, if you have one head, which is the Chakravarti Raja, which Yudhishthira eventually became, then each and every one is administering his own path, but under one head, and that shows the unity, the force. And if we look at the basics of why the Hindus are suffering worldwide today, is just because we failed to learn the lesson of the Chakravarti Rajya. Whatever be our differences, let's put that aside and just try to be in the one head, and then what head should be Dharma. So Dhyan, Karma and Upasana, the first mantra is showing Dhyan, the concept of God, and the Karma is don't covet, don't crave for what doesn't belong to you, and be dedicated to Dharma, which is don't covet, don't crave for what doesn't belong to us, is part of Dharma, and that is Asteya. The second mantra has a key word, key part of it, which says, Na karma lipyate nare. So do your job. Well, let's affirm ourselves in our duties and responsibilities, irrespective of what would be the outcome of that. And this is the selfless service which Sri Krishna gives to Arjuna. Just do your job. What happens is live it. The fruits of the action will come in their due time. And Ishwar God, being Nyayakari, all just, will give the results, the outcome of the karma in their due time. And the next mantra, the key word is Asurya Namate Loka Andhena Tamasa Vrita. Who is the Asur? The Asur is the one whose thoughts are overridden by ignorance. Asurya Namate Loka Andhena Tamasa Vrita. If you can link it to simple Hindi, which is more or less right in this case. Andhena tamasa vrata. And the one who is overridden by ignorance. And ignorance is not simply the absence of knowledge. It may be somebody who is knowledgeable, but he's blindfolded by, as we say, asmita rag dvesh abhinivesh. The concept of me, mine, and myself, ego. The person doesn't see beyond these three words, me, mine, and myself. Then rag is inordinate attachment. And dvesh, when the things to which the person is attached ceases to give pleasure. I'm not saying happiness, it's pleasure because it's physical benefits which we are looking for. And when that ceases, then that becomes into aversion, into hate, and this is where we go wrong. And abhinivesh is when we stick to things thinking that if I'm not here, nothing will run well. I think of myself as indispensable, whereas it's not like that. We've seen people across and throughout history who thought like this, but the day they die, somebody else take the chair and get things running. This is abhinivesh. We have the fear of death, but we try to overcome that fear by thinking that death is only for others and it's not for us. And then the next mantra which we saw says, Anejadekam manaso javiyo nainad deva apnuvan. It says, one Anejadekam. Anejadekam, it says, the Ishwar God seems to be moving, but really it's not moving because it has no necessity to move. It's within us, all around us, and everywhere in this world. And to understand that concept of Ishwar God being omnipresent and doesn't need to move from one place to another, just we see one bowl in which you put, say, 20 rasgullas topped up with the syrup. The syrup is within each and every rasgulla and is also on the outside. The entities are different. And for the syrup to be in all the rasgullas, it doesn't have to move because it's already present there. It's always like that. So for Ishwar God to take cognizance of whatever occurrences are happening in each and every corner of this world, it's simple, it doesn't have to move. For us, if we don't know the concept of omnipresence, we always think that as we have to move from one place to another to know of what is happening there. For Ishwar God, it's not like that. And the beauty of it is the next mantra says, Tade jati tanai jati taddure tadvantike. Tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasya bahyata. For those who believe that God needs to move from one place to the other, the Veda and the Eeshopanishad as well as the Gita says, no. This concept is the concept of those who are immersed in ignorance. Immersed in ignorance because if God is staying at one particular point at a time, just take this like this, the earth is round like this and Ishwar God is there, he can only see there, not below. Eventually, it has to be an entity which is omnipresent, present everywhere and at all times. So there's no need to move from one place to another. Tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasya bahyata. It says, by being omnipresent, Ishwar is also omniscient and knowing all the things, all the occurrences everywhere in this world. And this is how Ishwar being omnipotent, almighty, all-powerful, makes the universe going. So after creation, G for generator, creator of this universe, then O for operator of this universe, being all-powerful, omniscient, all-knowledgeable, and omnipresent, then gets everything sets into place as the sustainer, also operator or sustainer, then ultimately at the end of the lifetime of this universe, be the dissolver of this universe. The next mantra says, Yastu sarvani bhutanyatman neva nupashyata sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tato na vichikitsati. So, Atmanam. In the Vedas, in the Upanishad, in the Darshan Shastra, Atma is used generally to cover the conscious entities. First entity, the supreme consciousness, Ishwar God, and then all the other souls, all the other jivatmas. So Then how do we address the supreme consciousness? We say Paramatma, Param Atma. So here it says, जो विद्वान आत्मन परमात्मा के भीतर ही सब प्राणी अप्राणी को विद्या धर्म और योगाभ्यास करने के पश्चात ध्यान दृष्टि से देखता है, और जो सर्वभूतेषु सब प्रकृति पदार्थों में आत्मा को भी देखता है, वह विद्वान तीस पीछे नहीं संशय को प्राप्त होता है. So how do we eliminate our doubts? We should see non-living beings, that is the inanimate objects, as being inanimate. They don't have consciousness. And when they don't have consciousness, they can't use the logic, they can't do anything by themselves. And this is where the creation comes with the help of Ishur God. Being the omnipresent, omniscient, all knowledgeable, present everywhere, and all powerful, needs no external help to carry out its functions. So let's be like knowledgeable, learned persons. One know Ishur within us and everywhere at all times. But Ishur being present in us, we don't become Ishur. Ishur being present in non-living entities, those entities are not Ishur. Like I referred to the rasgulla, the cheese ball in the syrup. If you take the cheese ball, you put it in water, remove it, put it in water again 100 times, the sweetness disappears. So the sweetness from the syrup is one entity and the cheese ball is one entity. So we should understand the concept of God like this. And then this mantra says, Sarva Bhuteshu Sab Prakriti Padarth. Let's know the inanimate objects as such, and the animate objects, the sentient, that is, those living beings as having a soul. Let's clearly understand the difference. And when we understand the difference, then we'll start removing the doubts out of our mind on ourselves as an entity, as the soul within this body, and each living form has its own, as we say, duties, responsibilities in this whole setup, the maintaining the ecological balance of this universe. And by our species or form of life is already attributed, as the Yog Darshan puts it, Jati Ayu Bhoga. Jati is the species, and the Ayu, the lifetime, the lifespan is determined according to the species. And Bhoga, what the species has to eat and enjoy in its present form of life, is also defined. Like Ayu for some species, probably a few seconds, a few minutes, a few hours, some a few days, and some for a few years. Like mankind, it says Jive Sharada Shatam is 100 years. For the Toto, it's approximately 200, 300 years. For the Ashoka tree, it's 100 years. For the people and Burr, that is the banyan tree, it's about 400, 600 years. These are things like that. And Bhoga for the lion, for the tigers, these are the carnivorous animals. They will hunt and they will eat. For the cow, for the goat, these are vegetarian animals. They have to eat that. And our body also is designed to be vegetarian. If we look at this digestive juices, the pH value is not made to digest non-vegetarian food. That's why non-vegetarian food stays in our system for longer time, and ultimately it's proven scientifically that when that stays in our digestive system for a long time, is going to ferment for more than enough, and it starts rotting, and this is where diseases also spread within our body. So let's use the logic and see the universe and learn from the universe and remove our ignorance and live life accordingly. And the next mantra says, Yasmin bhutanyatmadvi bhujanatah tatra ko moha kaha shoka ekatva manupashyatah. That's also very interesting. हे मनुष्यों, जिस परमात्मा ज्ञान विज्ञान व धर्म में विशेषकर ध्यान दृष्टि से देखते हुए सब प्राणी मात्र अपने तुल्य ही सुख दुख वाले होते हैं, उस परमात्मा आदि की अद्वितीय भाव अनुकूल योगाभ्यास से साक्षात देखते हुए योगी जन को कौन मोह, मोरावस्था, कौन शोक व क्लेश होता है, अर्थात कुछ भी नहीं. And I'll take that to link it with one shlok from the Gita. It says, Maya saktamana partham yogam yujjanma dashaya asanshayam samagram mayatha jyasyasi tatrino. It says, Hey Parth, Krishna is talking to Arjun. Parth is referring to Arjun. पूर्ण रूप में मुझ में ही मन लगाकर और मेरा आश्रय लेकर तुम योगाभ्यास करते हुए जिस प्रकार मेरे समग्र रूप को विभूति बल ऐश्वर्य सहित बिना संशय को जान लोगे, उससे सुनो. So it says पूर्ण रूप से जानना. So we need knowledge. And then Ashray Lena, that is the devotion, dedication to the knowledge. Ashray Lena is not physical ashray. It's like the child living in the house, when being obedient, this is bhakti towards the parents, and this is bhakti towards Sri Krishna. There is go according to the knowledge that is being given. And when with that knowledge, then you'll be able to move forward without a single iota of doubt. Then the next shlok in the Gita, which is chapter 7, and this is the second shlok, it says, Dhyanam teham savidhyanamidam bhakshayamya sheshata yajjata neha bhuyonya ज्ञातव्य विशिष्यते. विज्ञान सहित जो तत्व ज्ञान है, अनुभव सहित का ज्ञान है, संपूर्णता से उसको वर्णन करूंगा. So Krishna also gives the pledge there that he will give the complete knowledge, not half of it, not part of it, but the total of it, the sum of it. जिस ज्ञान लेने के बाद इस संसार में फिर और कुछ जानने योग्य शेष नहीं रहता है. And from that knowledge, if that knowledge is absorbed and implemented in karma, then there's no doubt which remains in this world. And this mantra of the Eeshopanishad also is saying, Tatra ko moha kaha shoka ekatva manupashyatah. So when we have no element or no single fine line of doubt or trace element of doubt within us, then we are not going to indulge in more inordinate attachment or infatuation. Then kaha shoka will never get entangled in grief, because we'll understand the transience of life. Everything born is bound to live. And when we understand the transience of life, we'll be humble and we'll always assert ourselves in our duties and responsibilities and don't do otherwise. We'll look into the next mantra and there, that is the eighth one. It says, Sapariyaga chukramakayam vranamasnaviram shuddhama papa vidham kavir manishi paribhu sayambhurthat sayambhuryathat tyato tan vyadadacha shvatibhya shamabhya. So this mantra says, Hey Manushyo, जो ब्रह्म शुक्रम शीघ्रकारी सर्वशक्तिमान अकायम स्थूल सूक्ष्म और कारण शरीर से रहित है, अव्रणम छिद्र रहित नहीं छेद है उसमें, अस्नाविरम शरीर काया आदि बंधन से रहित है, शुद्रम अविद्या दोषों से रहित है, अपाप विधम पाप कर्म और पाप विचारों से भी रहित हैं, परिअगात सब में व्याप्त हो, कवि सर्वज्ञ मनीषी सब जीवों के मनों के वृत्तियों को जानने वाला है, परिभु दुष्ट पापियों का तिरस्कार करता है, स्वयंभू अनादि स्वरूप है उसका, कोई उसने किसी ने भी ईश्वर को बनाया नहीं और नहीं बना सकता है। देन शाश्वतिभ्य सनातन अनादि रूप अपने स्वरूप से क्या करता है, माता पिता आदि जैसे हमें ज्ञान देता रहता है, समाभ्य प्रजाओं के कल्याण के लिए यथातथ्यतः यथार्थ भाव से अर्थान वेद ज्ञान से व्यदधात विशेष कर बनता है. So it defines the concept of God itself. It says, Shukram, God is fast in doing its actions and is always dutiful in its actions. Yeah, on the law of karma, we see things, we get some of the results immediately, some in the short term, some in the medium term, and some in the long term. And we have to understand that because it's only when the time is ripe that we get the outcome of the karma. It's like some people who work and get their hours and their wages on hourly basis. Some get on daily basis. Some work for one particular job, probably which will last half of a day. And once the job is done, is paid immediately. Some are paid at the end of the day, some are at the end of the week, some at the end of the month, and some get a normal pay, and then they are being paid the chunk of it based on the profitability at the end of the financial year. It's like that. Karma operates like that on the concept of yatha pinde tatha brahmande and yatha brahmande tatha pinde. What applies to the microcosm also applies to the macro level, and what applies at the macro level also applies at the micro level. Then Shuddham, Ishvara is 100% pure, no single trace of anything which is on the negative side. No avidya, no ignorance. Apapa vidham, no pap, no evil, no sin. Then Kavi, all knowledgeable. Kavi is not in the sense of the poet, but in terms of knowledge. Then Manishi knows our thoughts, our words, and our physical deeds. And this is where we have to understand karma also. And if we look at the Bhagavad Gita, Arjun comes with the same knowledge that is being given the by Sri Krishna there. The next shlok in chapter 7, shlok Shri says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatataamapi siddhanam kaschimam veta tattvataha. सहस्र मनुष्यों में से कोई एक सिद्धि के लिए आत्मज्ञान प्राप्त करने के लिए प्रयत्न करता है. So when we see wrongdoings all around the world, we know that God is always driving each and every one as the inner voice within the soul. So we need to practice yoga to be able, some level of meditation, dhyan, to be able to catch that divine guidance. That's why it says, Atma Dhyan Prapt Karne ke liye. So we'll get 1 in 1,000 who will be really dedicated to acquire that knowledge. But for day-to-day running, those 999% persons within that 1,000, one is going to be dedicated to that. But the 999, at least if they understand the Atma Dhyan, Atma mein jo dhyan hai, that is the guidance of the inner voice, that suffice for them to start walking and working on the path of righteousness, on the path of dharma. एवं जो प्रयत्न करने वाले सिद्ध है, उनमें से कोई एक ही मुझे तत्व रूप अर्थात यथार्थ रूप में जानता है. Okay, that one person will know the whole concept, but at least the 999, when they start working on Atma Dhyan, the knowledge within themselves, the divine guidance, they'll also grow gradually, slowly. And this is where the Gita also enjoins the Vedas. If within this birth we are not able to attain mukti, gradually, slowly, in 10 lifetimes, 50 lifetimes, eventually we'll reach the destination of moksha, mukti. This is the beauty of that, where we can link the various bits and pieces or the various puzzles and show that the knowledge is integrated. Suffice that we have to go on the concept of vidya, linking, as we say, shabda, artha, sambandh. Link the word with the meaning and the meaning within the context. Shabda is the word, artha is the meaning, and sambandh, put it in the proper context, in the proper perspective. Then we'll find that nothing is different between the Gita and the Eeshopanishad. And if we can rise, start probably learning from the Gita and going into the Upanishad and then delve into the Vedas, that's fine. But at least let's use the minimum which we have underhand. The most or the easiest one, which is accessible, most accessible, let's start with that and start walking the way. Each baby step counts on this spiritual path. And remember, spirituality is not just sitting down in prayers 24 hours a day. Spirituality is being really spiritual, that is living to the values of human life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Spirituality is spiritual reality in daily life. So I would like to end here unless anybody has any query or wants to complement what I've said. I know it's gone into the depth of the knowledge today, but then I thought it fit to make the connection with the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll leave the floor open before we close.
Thank you, Acharji. It was a very inspiring lecture today. It is kind of just that it is very much known to everybody that karm kiye jo fal ki chinta na karo. Your lecture was on that path only. Krishna is saying that okay, just follow the gyan, follow the and do the action. Don't think about who is on the other side. You do your work, and whatever is the result, just uh, uh, don't think about it. So I think that was another message today from your lectures. Gyan, Karm, and Upasana. That's what you explain how it is interconnected, all these three things. Uh, Thank you for your wonderful series on Upanishad. We will again come back next week, same time, Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, Acharya.
So let's end with one Om job.
Yes.
Close the eyes gently, one deep inhale, and while exhaling, we'll do the Om job. And while doing the Om job, listen to our own pronunciation, chanting of Om, and listen to the sounds and try to catch the vibrations of the chanting. थैंक यू फॉर योर अटेंशन. नमस्ते जी. ध्यान के लिए धन्यवाद. सभी